So this is meant to be an introduction. This is meant to kind of showcase to you what GP has to be able to kind of help you through some job costing. So if you're seeing something that you're interested in, by all means, use my email or my phone number and reach out, and we can have a private conversation to actually talk about your specific situation and see if we can explore whether job cost is a good fit for you, and then which level of job cost you might need to look at to try and accomplish what it is that you're trying to do. So again, we may not get all questions answered today, but at the same time, hopefully we give you enough of an overview that you can get your head wrapped around it and see if these are some things that you might be able to take advantage of. Job costing in general, right? Most people think of it from a construction perspective. Hey, I got to go build a house. I'm going to need to buy some supplies. I'm going to need to hire some people. I'm going to need to go out there and get some equipment. But job costing can do a lot more. We've got people that are machine builders. They go out and build really complex machines. I had one that built a machine for Ford that was too big to fit in their building. They actually had to rent space at another facility, and they could only put half of it in the building at a time. So they built half of it, take it over to Ford, deliver it, built the other half, took it over to Ford, and again, never actually saw the thing fully completed and running until they actually installed it at the customer site. So all of those things that went into building that machine were all tracked in their job costing. They could drill back and find information about those things. So very complex things can be done related to this stuff. But again, as we start to peel back some of the layers, you can do simple things like event management. You can track grants in job costing. You can go out there and do medical billing. Why is it that people want to go ahead and start doing some of their job cost things? Well, first off, the biggest thing is we are trying to align our revenues and our costs as we start to do our job costing. So I need to go out there and bill my customer at some point during the process of performing this job. Maybe it's at the beginning. Maybe it's a portion at the beginning and then there's milestones. Maybe there's going to be nothing being billed to it until the delivery at the end of it. You've got budgeting things that need to be involved in your jobs. Hey, I need to build this house. I'm going to need this much lumber. I think it's going to cost me this much. I'm going to need this much in terms of nails and screws and other supplies. I think it's going to cost me this much. I think I'm going to have this much in labor. So you get to do comparatives back to these budgeted amounts. And pretty much all of the things that we're going to showcase to you today will allow you to do some budgeting at some level. Some are more sophisticated than others. And so you'll just have to, we can talk some of those things through there. So again, you can do some budget versus actual reporting, and then there's inquiries, there's reports, there's smart lists. Again, each of the tools that we'll showcase today will offer all those kinds of things out to you. What are your choices inside of job cost for GP? So the four that I'm going to kind of showcase to you today are these. And there's a reason why I chose these. There are actually more options that are available. And again, if we find, maybe these aren't the right fit for you, but this other one might be a better fit, we can certainly go ahead and get that genned up and go ahead and give you a demo on that. But these are the four that we use the most often, and so that's why I stuck with this. We only have an hour to work through, and so in consideration for the time constraints, you know, I could show you 8 different job cost programs that could function with GP, but you wouldn't remember the first one by the time we finish this. So these are the top 4 that we generally do business with, and really I kind of rank them in terms of, you know, the effort and sophistication that they can accomplish. So analytical accounting is something that's built into the base GP. You all get it for free. It's a matter of whether or not you want to turn it on and activate it. And then it allows GP to function a little bit different. The bottom 3 then are things that you would have to buy separately to include them into Dynamics GP. But the first one, analytical accounting, does come free to the product and allows you to basically take advantage of it if it's something that you wanted to try. Project tracking, again, would be the next level up. It gives you some more sophistication in terms of aggregating the buckets and bringing things together a little bit beyond what analytical accounting does. And then job cost and project accounting are kind of on the same level. Project accounting is probably a little bit more sophisticated. It offers a few more things, and sometimes it is just the right solution based on the fact of the way your business needs to be run and the things that you need to try and accomplish. But really, we can switch back and forth between those two because they function very, very similarly. They're the most comprehensive job costing that we've got out there. for GP, and therefore they're the top two that we tend to go out there and do. But we have implemented all four of these at customers all over the place, so they all do work, and they work fine and they function fine, can give you most of the things that you want. And then the last piece that I wanted, this is, I believe, my last slide. I am not a big PowerPoint person, but revenue recognition. So that's really where the rubber hits the road, right? Hey, when I go out and I do these events, or I do my medical billing and I do my construction, how is it that I'm going to be expected to recognize my revenue? Again, analytical accounting and profit tracking are slightly less sophisticated in that regard, where essentially it's as you bill, it's immediate. You go out there and you recognize your revenue. So there's not a whole lot of choice there. You go out there, you create your sales order, you apply it to the job, the event, the whatever, and you recognize your revenue. Whereas job cost and project accounting offer up some more sophisticated levels where you could do milestone billings, you can do completed contract, you can do immediate revenue recognition. But the last one in this is percentage of completion. So both of those products do offer the ability to be able to go out there and say, hey, I have already started to accrue expenses against my job. I'm already working towards the completion of this job. I haven't billed anything, but yet I'm allowed to start recognizing some of that revenue, right? So I have a job where I think we're going to get paid $10,000. I've already taken on $1,000 worth of expenses, and in my first month, I'm already allowed to recognize 10% of my revenue to try and keep my expenses and my revenues aligned with each other as we move forward in the project. So percentage of completion is the more sophisticated way to ensure that you can keep those revenues and expenses aligned and allow you to be able to go out there and track all those metrics and look at how your jobs are doing and things like that. So I do believe that is it, and we're going to get out of there and then start to jump into, I actually have 4 versions of Microsoft Dynamics GP running right now, and I've installed each of the products individually so that we can kind of showcase them to you and walk through just some simple examples of how they function and what they can do, and then you can start to look at what the capabilities are and decide if it's something that interests you. So this first one is the one that I've got installed with analytical accounting. So there's actually a few different ways that you can set this up. I've done this at a few customers where we've got manufacturing facilities, and they wanted to just simply be able to go out there and say, hey, I want to track all my repairs and maintenance for all of my presses. We've got 30 presses out on the floor, and I want to be able to look at them individually and know what we're spending from a repair and maintenance perspective. And so to accomplish things like that, we came out and we simply set up an analysis group to be able to go out there and say, okay, we're going to call this machines. It could have been called press. It could have been called anything. But essentially what it is I'm trying to localize and say, these are their machines out on the floor, right? And in their case, I think, you know, like I said, they had 30 presses all listed out here. We literally would call it press, I think they had numbers, press 1, press 13, press 15, press 31, whatever it was. And then in the description, we would actually put that this is a 100-ton press, blah, 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 to try and let people know specifically what the presses were. So these 2 categories gave us a little bit of flexibility to go out there and know what machine that we were talking about. Additionally, another way that you could look at this would be is I went out here and created vehicles. So again, in your companies, maybe you want to go out there and start tracking, hey, what are our costs for our trucks that are going out and doing deliveries? And then maybe we have some executives that have cars that we're depreciating through our fixed assets, but we want to track some information about those as well. So this is another way that you can leverage analytical accounting. Beyond this, we actually have the Toledo Mud Hens that use analytical accounting, and they do some unique things where they take it and add a few things into it, and basically what I mean by things are dimensions. And so they're leveraging some of the multi-dimensional analysis that is layered into the analytical accounting. And so where I've said vehicles, they'll go out there and they'll say, oh, I've got advertising, and then they'll have whether it's print advertising, and then is it newspapers or magazines or whatever, and then they've got radio spots, and they've got TV spots. And so they've done some more complex things. I'm not trying to go too far into the weeds here, but the point would be is analytical accounting, as simplistic as it is, can do lots of different things for you. Another real-world example of this would be we've got customers that go out there and they'll track their construction in process. So, hey, they're, again, some sort of a distributor manufacturer, and they're trying to gen up a new process. And so it might take some machinery, it might take some labor and things like that. They're going to aggregate all those costs leveraging one of our analytical accounts here. And then when they're done, they will take the sum total of all of those costs and move it out of that account and put it into a fixed asset account and begin to depreciate that in total. So again, different things that people do out there to take advantage of this stuff so that you can, start to think about what you might like to do. So this is some of the simple setup just so that you can start to see how it functions. Once you've built your analytical groups out there, basically there's a couple ways you can do it. I did this nice and simply to go out here and just get one set up, and I keyed this in against this account. And you basically could click into here on the analysis, and I told it that, yes, I want to be able to track my analysis group machines against this account. And when that happens is you will see that instead of just seeing a normal lookup, one of the buttons that you're going to see when we go into distributions is that there's going to be a new field out there, a new button out there that we can click to be able to go then and look at our analysis groups and go out there and select it. So again, this is a little bit of setup that has to be done. And then once you've done it, and there are ways that, hey, if I have a whole range of accounts, again, there's different ways that we can apply these groups out to all of the different accounts that they need to be able to be used against. So now let me go ahead and go back to my payables transaction. And then in here on our distributions, when I click over here, notice this little button just went active. If I click back down to here, it's no longer active. So that lets me know that my analytical account is out there. You can also set the system up so that this analytical account window pops every time because it's a required field. It's that's a setup option, and it's really up to you as to whether or not you want to force people into this. And then basically what you could say is, oh, this is supposed to go to machine 1, or it was supposed to go to machine 2, and then just by switching it, I could go ahead and take care of that. I'm going to mess myself up because I had already done it out to that one. I should delete the row and do it the right way. So let me go out here and then just show you that basically I'm going to delete the row, and then we can add it back in. So again, this time, maybe I want to go ahead there and select that this should all go to machine 2, and I want all of it to go there. I could have just as easily said, hey, $25 went to machine 1, $75 went to machine 2, all in here, just like you would do on a normal distribution. I click OK, and then at that point, I can go ahead and click OK on my window, and then save it, and now I've just created my first transaction going in there, and I can go ahead and post this batch, and now I've just gone out there and started to track that against my analytical group. Once you've started to key transactions in, so again, whether it's a payable, a sales order, it's a matter of the hook on this comes in when you're leveraging the account that has that set up. And so that's how you're able to go out here and track revenues and expenses and be able to see how all of those things can come together. And basically you could start to give yourself a simple kind of P&L statement right from within your inquiries or your reporting that comes out. Next thing I wanted to kind of showcase to you was just some simple reporting in here. So I'm going to go back and just basically use my quick links in here and shortcuts. I'm going to go out here and we're going to bring up the machines. And what this will let me do is switch between the different machines here, and I can start to see all the transactions that are occurring against each of these things. Now again, I only have 2 little things out here, and I didn't do a whole lot of transactional things out here. And so from that perspective, there's not a whole lot of demo data on this, and so I had to go out and set these things up, and so I didn't spend gobs of time on that. But I think you can get the idea that you can come into here, start to look at all the different things that are on here. You have the ability of whether or not you want to look at unposted, meaning this is actually sitting in a batch still. I haven't posted it yet, so I have included my unposted, my open, and my history. I don't know why my check boxes aren't showing up, and my boxes around my other things are showing a little bit weird on here, but I increased the resolution on my screen so that you wouldn't be staring at that and going, what does that say? So from my perspective, I've tried to get this so that you can see it as clearly as possible, and I think it's affected how my window is showing up. But this is an unposted transaction, so again, I could select whether or not I just want to see historical transactions, things that have been posted and satisfied, or I want to see things that are open in history, and things like that. So again, this is a nice inquiry screen for you to be able to go out there and look at some of that information. In addition to that, you've got some reports that you can go out there and run, and they're just basically included into here, and I think it's under groups here. You could go out there and start to run these things. I'm not going to spend lots of time on that because, again, I've still got a few others that we want to go through and kind of work our way through. Last thing I want to touch on would be is that, of course, you also then, for every one of these, there are smart lists that are already predefined out there that would allow you to come out here and actually run reports against that. Hey, I just want to see this one machine. I can go out here and restrict it to where I only see the one detail code that I wanted to see and see all the transactions related to that. So lots of different ways to get to that. Each of the systems that we look at will have similar kinds of functionality in that regard, but they also do then treat things a little bit different. So having said that, I'm going to transition now off of analytical accounting and start to showcase to you what you can do with our project tracking. So this one starts to firm things up a little bit more, and it starts to give you a little more capability in terms of how I want to aggregate some of these projects together, how I want to lump some of the data together. And so here I am back in my GP. I've got project tracking installed, and here's all the defaults out here. So I'm going to just go out here, and we're going to open up the basic project. Again, this one didn't have a whole lot of demo data in it already, so I set it up to allow it to automatically create my project IDs. So this is actually going to say, hey, the next project number at this point I think is going to be project 00004. You can come up with your own numbering schemas. I know we've got customers that use project IDs where it basically puts the year at the beginning, puts the month, and then this is the first project of that month. So if that's what you wanted to do, you could almost reset this each month so that this thing reset and nobody would have to remember, hey, what's the next project number we wanted to use this month? It would automatically increment, much like your AP checks do when you go out there and run your AP checks, right? Those auto increment. This functions the same way. So we get to go out here, add a description about this. So again, different than what we had in analytical accounting, this gives us a little more description out here. We can actually start to track like work order numbers and proposal numbers that might be related to the project that we're trying to do. I've got my customers and my salespeople that are associated with this because, again, I'm saying this is a more formal project kind of a system, and so it starts to let me build a few more key attributes into this. We can start to track our estimated start dates and end dates and our actual start dates and end dates and when this thing actually started here. And then these user defines, just like any other user defined inside of Great Plains GP, you can define what these mean for you. But this is where project tracking starts to give you some of the flexibility and the aggregation of information. So maybe you're an event caterer and you're in the Metro Detroit area, but you do events in Lansing, Detroit, Toledo, and you want to be able to go out there and track the different events that you do and actually run reports that say, all right, what's it looking like for our catering down in Toledo? I could make that be one of my user defined as the city, and I can make sure that all the cities that we do business in, and so when I create this project, I can say that this is going to happen in Toledo versus Detroit versus, Lansing. So again, I could put in the metropolitan areas and know, hey, this segment of our business doesn't seem, Detroit's kind of lagging behind the other two. Maybe we want to make some changes, and maybe we want to do some different campaigning. Or maybe we want to look at, maybe we just don't want to go into Detroit anymore. We just don't seem to get that business going there. Beyond that, you could start to break things out to different departments within your organization. Hey, this is related to X department versus the Y department over here. Again, you've got 7 different attributes that you can go out there and start to track related to the projects that you wanted to create. And so again, it just starts to give you some flexibility in terms of what kind of data you want to get back when you are said and done. So it can be this simple to go out here and start this. And then what we're going to do is I've got a transaction out here, and I'm just leveraging AP very easily because you start to see this window pops because we've got our project tracking turned on and we told it to. If you don't want this window to pop, we can make it so just like it did when we went to analytical accounting, all we see is the normal AP screen, and then you would have to go out here and tell it to say additional and bring up the project distribution, and then this window would pop and you'd be able to go out and deal with it. So you have a couple options about how these things react when you go through this. And then if I just backspace over this, bring up my transaction, here's where you can see that I've already got this one going out there and I've distributed it. But basically all you do is you come in and you say, yep, I want to distribute this. And I've gone out there and said, distribute this to my project one for $100. Again, I could have taken $50 and applied it to project one. And if I had a project two, I could go out there and apply $50 to that one. And I've also got all my user defined. So again, on a project by project or on a line item by line item basis, I can decide which of these user defines apply to the expense that I'm dealing with. So it's giving us a little bit more capability and a little bit more effort in terms of what we can do with the information as we start to go through this. Project tracking does also then track all of these different kinds of things that are out here, right? So we've got all these different variables, which again, weren't available to us in the analytical accounting. And so this is what allows me to start to aggregate all my information related to specific jobs. And I'm not going to change it because this should be going to the actual cost of materials because I'm actually buying something here and I want to make sure it hits my job appropriately. But I just wanted to let you know, we start to see that things get segmented out here. And in the setup, we can go out here and actually figure out, hey, what are these breakdown accounts? And we can even go a next step further, which then starts to say, now I'm starting to do some real job costing because I can now, under actual materials, create different cost codes to go out here and actually create, hey, this is actually for materials, or this is for subcontract, or this is for whatever, and I'd be able to go out and create these different codes out here and say, yes, this is deemed to be part of my material cost, but then I have subcodes underneath this that I could actually break this out. So even if I did 2 lines to project 1 here, both going to actual cost of materials, if I had a second cost code, I could have broken it out to 2 different cost codes and done $25 here, $75 there. Just going to go ahead and say, okay, we're about halfway through this. Project tracking, again, it functions with our AP screens. It functions with our PO screens. It functions with our GL screens. It functions with our sales order screens. Analytical accounting, same deal. Again, it comes down to just making sure that you're using the right account for analytical accounting. This one is, we're going to go out there and invoke the project tracking distribution so that people can go out there and do that. Similar to where we went with our analytical accounting, right, we've got smart lists that are out here. So again, as you start to say, hey, I want to do some inquiry about it, I always try to send people out to smart lists. And it gives people the ability. We're probably all old users of GP. We know what smart lists can do, but right, it lets me go out here, do some searches, save the versions of these things that I want to go out, and maybe just change some date ranges. So I tend to send people out here. I can also tell you that it's only been with the advent of some of the smart list designer stuff that some of these really gave us some of these smart lists out here. Prior to that, I used to do a lot of things through custom reports, and I actually have a customer for one of the things that I want to show you with some custom reports that we had done that took the data and kind of analyzed it a little bit differently. So we'll kind of showcase that towards the end of this stuff. But again, here we go. We've got smart lists that will allow us to go out here, look at the details, and I can start to restrict down to just a particular project and start to see all the different activities that went on. Okay? We do, within the product itself, have the ability to go out and do some inquiries. And we can go out here and just bring this up and bring up my project. And again, I start to get to see all of the transactions that were occurring. This was a project tracking labor adjustment that we did. So this could represent, hey, I run ADP, but I want to get my labor in against my job. I basically go do a journal entry, and then I break it out to all my different labor codes so that it can get into my project, and I can get my labor and materials all being aggregated in here. Okay? And then we've got our reporting. So again, you've got project reports that are actually out here, and what happens is this one actually functions a little bit like HR, where you've got all these different things. I'm coming into my project analysis, and then from there, I can actually start to go out here and run different versions of the same report. So based on the different layout type version I choose, report 3 over report 4, I might get different information showing up on one of the reports that I go out here and run. I'm not quite sure what's going to show up on here because I just arbitrarily grabbed that, but we're going to go ahead and say yes, let's save that. And then basically it starts to give me some reporting in here. again, we're about halfway through. We're about to get into the two bigger systems, and so these have a few more tools built into them that these first two didn't have. So again, I like this job costing. It's very sophisticated. It's got a lot of capabilities, and it's a very clean, simple, easy system to use. That's why it is actually one of my favorites. It's one of my go-tos. We generally set up divisional accounts in here, and so by selecting the different divisions, it controls how the accounts are going to be structured for each of these jobs that get created. And so these could go to different divisions within your organization. They could go to different departments in your organization. We can use them to do lots of different things. We don't have to use divisions if we don't want to. We could do it on a cost code basis. We've got different types of contract types. Well, let me just run through the rest of this. Our estimator, usually your salesperson, so we usually use that as the salesperson associated with this job, and then our project manager truly is who is managing this project. We use our customers drawing from, I don't know if you've really, I mean, all of these things, project tracking, Wensoft, we're all ISV solutions added in here, but you can see how seamlessly they interface with GP. You don't know where GP ends and these projects take over. They leverage all the same tables inside, so they don't have to go out here and create their own table structures. They're doing everything inside of GP, which makes these very nice, user-friendly projects or products for you guys to take advantage of. Our contract types, we can do fixed amount, we can do cost plus, we can do cost plus NTE. So what's the difference? Our fixed amount. In this particular job, we're saying we'll do this job for a flat fee of $45,000. I'm going to go out here and put in some budget information so I can say, how am I doing compared to that? What's my calculated gross profit on this job? I'll be able to take this information, take away our budget, and be able to say, hey, here's our estimated gross profit. Cost plus allows us, instead of doing a fixed price, what it does is this would get grayed out, and then it's derived based on the budgetary information you put in. We have cost codes that we use, and in there, it's going to go out there and say, hey, every time I do this, I want to put a 10% margin on it. And so, hey, it costs me $100. It's going to go out there and charge you $110 or whatever the 10% margin is going to be calculated out. So the system, depending on what you choose, will help you figure out what these contract amounts. And then the cost plus NTE, what it is it's almost kind of like these two options coming together. Hey, I'm going to do this on a cost plus basis, but we've also agreed that we will not exceed $45,000 on this project. So if you start to exceed your NTE amount, you're starting to eat away at your margin. And so from that perspective, it does help you to kind of try and keep things on track and make sure that you do not go too far off kilter there. To go in, add in, again, I had said a couple times, I even pointed, so you can see you can do scheduled starts and actual completes and all that fun stuff. And then you can go in and actually begin to add in cost codes. Here are some predefined cost codes that are already set up against this job, and actually I wanted to just cycle through these and show you what you can do. So again, it's showing you, hey, I've got 80 hours of this labor at $25 for a total of $2,000. And again, this one, 105 hours at $25 for $26.25. I did go through and add one in here. It's quite simple. Basically, you can either put in, hey, I've got 1 unit of something, and here's the total value that I want to do, or I can do individual units as you've seen on some of these other things. So you can be decided on how complex you want to go out and do this, but it does give you some metrics. If you're saying, hey, I've got 250 hours of this, I can go out there and start tracking against those hours and say, wow, of the 250 hours I allocated, I've already used 150 of those. I think we might be running into a problem. The cost codes themselves, these can be as simple as you want. When we were in project tracking, you actually saw me show you a breakdown account that said MATL for material. Well, I have a couple of customers that use their cost codes to be that simple. You can have up to 4 segments, kind of like you can in a GL account, but you're not required to. So most of my customers, I actually only have them use 1 or maybe 2, and even then I don't have them using 4 and 5 different digits in there. Literally, they might use 4 digits in the first segment and 2 digits in the second, or 2 digits in the first one, 4 in the second. Or they might only use 1 segment, and again, it's just going to be MATL. So these are alphanumeric characters that are being able to be built into here in terms of your cost codes, and you have flexibility. So if you only wanted one segment, you wouldn't see the other segments over here. You would just see the one that you use. So lots of flexibility in terms of that. As we go through and begin to transact within Dynamics GP, again, it's organic. It's built against, it's built with Microsoft tools, Microsoft GP tools. As I come in here and I want to go out and actually do a transaction for somebody, I'm going to say it's ABC Plumbing. Come on. And put in a doc number, $100. And when I go to distributions, I have an alternate screen that allows me to say, no, this is not related to a job, so I just want this to go through my regular AP. Here's the expense account I want it to go to. Oh, no, this is against the job. Let me go out here and change this. Let me go out and select my job number. And let me go select my cost code. Again, I think these cost codes are a little bit outlandish. I don't normally do things at that level, but basically, if that's all it takes to go out there, distribute it to a job, I'm done. I could save my transaction or post it. Let me go create my batch. And that's all it takes. In addition to this, right, a lot of people really, when we start talking about sophisticated job costing they're going out and buying materials for their projects. So here we are in our purchase order. And again, it's our native GP purchase order. And let me go grab another vendor. Okay. So that's kind of where I was heading to next anyway. So we were... Oh, actually, no, I was on my purchase order. So let me finish that since we didn't really get to see that. So what I was showcasing is, again, it's native within the system here. I can go out here. I can grab a vendor. I can come in here, and I can start to say, that's it. So from here, I can go out, tell it what I wanted to buy. Maybe I wanted to buy a bunch of these filters. So, of course, I grabbed the one thing that wasn't already pre-populated because now I'm just trying to get moving here. We're going to buy 10 of these. We'll let it go out at that cost. And again, right here, I get to decide. So I can commingle my job-related items and my non-job-related items all on one PO if I needed to. I will tell you this. If I need 10 of these on this job and 10 of these on another job, I can't put 20 on here and distribute them to two different line items on here. I actually have to go out here and break them out into two separate. No, we're going to change this. Of course, I grabbed somebody that was set up as a subcontractor. Let me just use one of my other vendors out here. They will not be a subcontractor. So let's say I wanted to just buy anything, engine oil. Yes, I know it wouldn't be against Ace Travel, but that's fine. I'm going to measure 10 of these. So again, if I wanted to take these 10 and split them, I actually have to do it on two separate line items because I only have one cost code that I can leverage. Oh my gosh, look at all these things. Of course, you'd normally have these things built out. If any of you use distribution, you'd be familiar with that. And here we go, job cost. Now I can go out here, apply it to my job. Right here. Again, I could have just typed it in, and then again, if I knew the cost code, I could have just typed that in. So it is actually simpler than I made it appear. I apologize. I'm rushing because now we've had a couple of issues that came up during this, and so I do apologize for technical difficulties. So here's that. I just want to show you a couple more things, actually two things. One is our commit. So what this one starts to let me do is look at encumbrances against my jobs. I can go out there and say, hey, I've created this PO, but technically my cost doesn't begin to appear in here unless I actually start to receive against this. That's when my first transaction starts to occur. So the first two kind of don't let me see this version of it. So if I were to just to go out here and save this, it's now going to commit it to my job. And now when I come into here and I start to look at my jobs, I get to see, hey, here's my committed column. And in here are all the committed POs that I have. As we start to receive them, the amounts will move out of this committed column over into our posted cost column. And then our budgets get tracked over to here. And then you can go out here and this will actually show you where you might have over budget situations. Like we had no budget here. We had $30 posted into it in travel. So this is letting me know I've got a problem. I'm over budget. So this screen is great. It's one of the best things about this product is that it goes out here and shows me all this stuff. It will also show you what your contract position is. If you've got change orders, it'll go add all that up under here. If you want to see where you are from a build position and a revenue recognition, even if you're not doing percentage of completion, this will show you, hey, here's my posted cost to date. Here's my forecasted cost. We're at 27.35%. Of that, I've earned, my 27.35% of my $46,000 contract. So I've earned $12,581. I've billed $11,400 against it, so I'm actually at a underbilled situation. And then it lets me see all the cash. That's kind of odd. There must have been some tax in there because we received more cash than what we actually billed them for. This would not have included the tax on there. And then here's my posted costs and looking at my cash short or over. So I'm in a negative situation there as well. I've actually expended more than I've billed them. So I've got to make sure that maybe I need to do another milestone billing to them to try and get that resolved. So that's all out there. You can do change orders against these. You can go out and schedule these change orders. They can be confirmed. This one has not been posted yet. This is why this job also started at $45,000, but as I went into the contract, you saw it actually said $46,000, actually right here, because there was a change order that was added in there. As you do your change orders in the system, they can add revenue side. They can add just expense side. Hey, when we went out and did our estimate, we were going to buy lumber at $1 a stick. Now, all of a sudden, lumber's jumped to $1.50. Well, that's got a material impact on my stuff. I could do a change order to the customer to say, look, when we originally estimated this, lumber was cheaper. We're going to take some incremental costs here. Maybe the customer isn't going to reimburse you for it. Maybe they will. The point would be is you would be able to go out there and deal with those situations whichever way that you needed to. Maybe the customer comes to you and says, hey, I want to make this change to this project. Could you go out there? I know you're already doing this, but we've realized instead of that, we want to change this to something else, right? Hey, instead of a 40-inch TV that we're going to have installed, I want to put in a 60-inch TV. Oh, well, we can do that. It doesn't really take any more labor. But to do that, it's going to cost me more to get you the TV. So let me go out there and basically add in a revenue component without really increasing my cost so that I know that we can get it done for the same amount of money, but yet I know I'm going to get more money into my contract for that. So you can do revenue only, you can do cost only, or you can do both as you're doing our change orders. And all of them get listed out here. As you start to go through these, you're actually able to start drilling back to these things and actually see where did this actually come from. So that came from PO 2097. I drill back further and I can get right into the PO. Something looks a little squirrely there. I'm not quite sure why that is. Let me go into a posted cost over here and see if we can find out what's going on here. So again, I see my estimated cost. I see my actual cost coming through. I click into here and I can see that there's two things that came through for this. And again, if I drill back even further, it takes me right into the transaction that originated this. So this was actually a general ledger entry that went out there and moved some costs. Maybe they moved it from one project to another to get this stuff out here. So all of these things can be done very easily, very nicely, and it lets you do this. A lot of times we will lock down this estimated cost as, hey, this was our original budget against this. Then we would either do change orders to affect the change to what the total cost is going to be, or we can do forecast revisions that would allow me to say, originally I budgeted $13,625, but we realized we needed to add in some additional labor costs, so I can do my estimate change over here. And this is truly the column that's being used as you go through and you start to analyze your percentage of completion. Okay, so there's that. Again, I introduced the concept of going out and doing smart lists. So here you get some smart lists now that we've got our smart list designer, and so you can go out here, you can start to restrict things down to particular jobs. You get to start to see all the different kinds of costs and things that you can track. It's very sophisticated, it does a lot of nice things. I'm going to also showcase for you real quickly. We've gone out and actually built some custom reports for a customer, and this is they. And so go out and see if I can get this to pop. There we go. So here is one that shows all their different salesmen, and this is showing them globally, you know, these sales guys, they've got PO amounts, meaning their contract amounts, their estimated costs or their actual costs coming in, what's the calculated gross profit on these, and a profit percent. Well, some of these are blank because technically that data is actually sitting at the detail line. And so this is just summarizing that stuff up here, but we've done some really nice sophisticated reports. This allows them to go out there And this report will actually showcase to them whether this is an open job or a closed job so that they can look at that. If they only want to run it for open jobs, then they would only run it for open. If they want to run it and say, well, what did this look like last year with our closed jobs, they could just see the closed. So very cool report that goes out there and to do some of these things. And then we built out for these guys also, we did some AR aging and some just, this sales guy's only jobs, right? So if I click into this, it will show him just his jobs, and he'd be able to kind of manage them from here to be able to see what's going on, okay? And then let me jump back here one more time, and in here. Hey, he's the guy in charge of this stuff. He should be going out here and trying to evaluate, are we staying current with most of our customers, or do they owe us money? Let's go back and make sure that we can get this stuff covered and taken care of. Okay, let me jump back over into project accounting. So the reason that I like, here, I'm going to go and bring in a customer. The reason that I show my preference towards the job costing one over this, these are very busy screens. It is not to say that they don't work. It's not to say that you can't function with this. We've had customers that have done it because they said, well, I'm kind of interested in doing job cost, but I don't know if this is really going to take off. We're kind of creating a new division. We kind of want to do this. Well, guess what? They had project accounting already because of the modules that they already owned. They had this for free. And I said, look, it's not my favorite version of job costing, but it costs you nothing. If you don't think this division is going to work out, it's a nice, easy way to start. This allows you to come out here, and what it does is it actually adds in another layer. In Wensoft, we could have added in a project to allow us to aggregate multiple jobs together and see how they run together and look in total. Here, you have to start everything at a contract level. So if you were to drill back, here is the contract with Adam Park, and then this shows you all the different projects that are going on. So again, it is kind of a nice look. In our case at Maynard, right? This could be initial installation of Dynamics GP, and then we could have had a second project set up for continued support, right? And once you've done your sign-off, it says, yep, our GP's working great. You guys did everything you promised to do. Okay, great. We're going to close down that project, and then we're going to start to just put you into a phone support kind of, or a tech support kind of a situation where all of it would go to that secondary job. So in that regard, it does do some cool things that job cost doesn't really necessarily do in the same way to kind of showcase it to you. But at the same time, I find the screens to be a little bit busy, and I'm just being honest with you, that's all. You can come out here to actually create your budgets and do the things that you need to do. Again, all these systems are going to give you good reports. They're going to give you the ability to go out there and do smart lists against this. Let me jump over here, because this should actually let me see some of the, so here we are. It's going to show me all my different projects, and it should start to let me see, much like what you just saw on the Wensoft one, it starts to aggregate these data, and it does it based on cost categories versus they call them cost codes. The baseline, these are your budget numbers going in here. Beyond that, the other thing that's unique about this one is it's got a nice timesheet thing set up in here for you to be able to go out there and do timesheets and expense entries against these. And I forgot to showcase to you over here on the Wensoft side, they actually have their own time-keeping capability in here as well, where you can come in and actually do a very nice time card. It lets you go out there and apply it to the job. And what it does is it aggregates this, and when you print it, you'll actually get a timesheet that could be printed and signed if that's what you need your folks to do. The timesheet inside of project accounting, I do believe that it does give them an output of a timesheet that, again, we could add a signature line. I don't believe it's there by default. It's just a minor little tweak to that. But again, very capable. All four of these can do all the different kinds of things that we've discussed today. If you have questions, if you have things that have kind of piqued your interest, by all means, you can reach out to Christine, or you can reach out to me directly on my contact info. You can reach out to me at my email, or you can call me on my cell phone. I'd be happy to talk about this stuff. I've been doing job costing for many, many years. I enjoy it. I think it's really neat, some of the things that we can accomplish with it. So if it's something that's piqued your interest, please reach out. And beyond that, I hope the rest of you have a great day, and we'll talk soon. Take care.